John Cleveland Carter is betraying the country that gave him his chance. This is my public announcement that I am ashamed of John. I am ashamed I ever was his friend. His paper is abusing the freedom of the press and misusing the power of the press. Freedom of the press means freedom to tell the truth. It doesn't mean freedom to twist the truth. I say John Cleveland Carter is a traitor. He can sue me for saying so. I hope he does.
Freedom of the press means freedom to tell the truth. It doesn't mean freedom to twist the truth. I'm going to read every line of that editorial to those people out there, every line of it. And then I'm going to plead guilty to everything that Ulysses Brantford said. After that, the Gazette is going to clean house, starting right at the top.
Speaking a moment, John. I took the liberty of revising some of your figures. The paper will carry the speech in full, of course, starting on the first page.
I suppose it's already in print?
Well, be on the street with it in about 12 minutes.
Get the managing editor. Tell him to kill my speech as set. Hold for new copy to come.
Yes, Mr. Carter.
What's come over you, John?
A sudden attack of journalistic honesty.
Gazette? Mr. Thompson, please.
Thompson talking. Oh, you. What? So what are we doing, plain Parcheesi or publishing a newspaper? I've already sent the home edition away with Carter's speech as set.
All right, then argue with Mr. Carter yourself.
Mr. Thompson, I consider it important news when the Gazette announces a complete change of policy. We will print it.
I don't intend to let you do something that we'll all regret.
The man who wrote that told the truth. I'm going to tell the truth to those people out there.
The man who wrote that should be in a concentration camp. Have you lost your mind?
As of tonight, Mr. Rankin, you stopped running my newspaper. Mr. Thompson, he seems to have been cut off. Get him back, please. I'm still principal owner of the Gazette. I've let you dictate policies because I've been too busy with other matters much too long.
Gazette? Mr. Thompson again, please. Hello, Griff?
You were right, Eddie. You're always right. I've been a fool. From now on, Rankin won't have things his own way.
They're ready for you, Mr. Carter.
Good luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Cleveland Carter, publisher of the New York Gazette.
Ladies and gentlemen, your programs will tell you that I'm to speak tonight on the subject of the freedom of the press. A free press in Axis-dominated Europe is dead. Thank God in America it is still free. Here we have no censorship. Every editor is on his honor, but the editor has no right to take advantage of that trust. A free press is the sole right of the people. The editor is but the trustee of that right, not the dictator. Beware of those who hide behind the front pages of America, who use for their own advantage the power of the press. They are as dangerous as enemy planes, guns, bombs, tanks. I speak to you as the publisher of a newspaper which reaches millions, earns millions, and misguides millions. Here's a small town weekly paper, the Star County World of Hiawatha, whose editor is able to reach less than 0.1% once a week of the number of people my paper reaches every day. 3 weeks ago, this man, Ulysses Bradford, wrote an editorial telling his readers and me that he is ashamed that he ever called me his friend. He called me a traitor to my country. Said my paper was misusing the power of the press, was betraying this country. He told the truth. I stand here tonight to plead guilty of abusing that trust. But I'm not the only traitor. I am going to name and convict with proof the other traitors.
Mr. Rankin, Mr. Carter is able to talk to you now.
Don't try to talk.
I've got things to say. More light. Paper.
Did you bring that paper here?
My orders. Also my orders. Print the speech I made on page 1. Paper printed speech you wrote for me.
The things you said might have been misconstrued.
You couldn't even wait for me to die. Get out.
John.
Oh, get out.
I think you'd better go now.
Doctor, nothing you can do. Eddie, give me a pen, some paper.
Help him.
All right, Mr. Thompson.
Fine.
Circulation increase has been very satisfactory.
Unfortunately, a publisher doesn't get killed every week.
We're tearing up the contract we have with you and replacing it with this one. You'll note that in the new contract, every circulation increase of 50,000 or more means a cash bonus for you. Better have your attorney read that.
This is all right.
Good, we'll get along. You and I are going to work more closely together than we have in the past. Riding on somebody else's bandwagon and following the parade doesn't sell papers, but leading your own parade will sell papers.
Circulation isn't all you're after, is it, Mr. Rankin?
You and I weren't born to march in the rear rank.
Who's he?
Oh, you can speak freely. Trent's really one of the family. Matter of fact, he's just done an excellent piece of work for us. Since the police have failed so miserably, I had Trent and several private investigators go after Carter's assassin.
Jerry Purvis?
Yes.
He worked for me.
Yes, and was discharged as a dangerous radical and a constant troublemaker.
Oh, he talked too much. Most kids like Jerry do. Kind of a half-baked idealist. Thinks he was born to die on a barricade, so he goes looking for a barricade. But he's not a murderer. I know he isn't. He couldn't be.
Well, I admire your loyalty to a former employee, but facts are facts.
Half a dozen witnesses made affidavits that Purvis threatened to kill Carter. She used vile and threatening language, was broken and dead. About to be thrown out of his apartment, had a sick mother. Bought a gun, was seen running away after shooting. What more do you want?
Well, if this doesn't hold up, we've got a fine libel suit on our hands.
We'll risk that.
Have the police got this stuff?
Why should we give our case to the police? Turn our story over on a platter to the other papers.
Okay, but you might as well know right now I'm not exactly crazy about building up our own little private Gestapo.
Well, in cases like this, I think the end justifies the means.
Come on, open up.
What do you want?
Your name Jerry Purvis?
Yeah, what if it is?
Open up.
You don't get in here without a warrant.
Hey, what do you think you're doing? Let go of me! My mother's in there. She's sick. Let her alone. Hey, what is this? What are you doing?
What do you think? Uh-huh. .38 caliber. One shot fired.
Your gun?
That wasn't there 5 minutes ago. I never saw it before in my life.
Guy says you bought it from him. Hawk shop on 4th Avenue.
You... give me now. Now, get out of here before I give... Get out of here!
Okay. That's just what we wanted. Nice set of fingerprints.
Hey, what are you doing? Go!
John Cleveland Carter is dead. Of the dead, speak only good. Or anyhow, speak as little bad as you can.
Yep. He had only one fault, and it killed him. He figured you only run a newspaper to make money. Duchess ready to roll?
What you figuring to put in that wide open space?
Well, let me see. It'll take about a stick and a half to fill her up, I reckon.
A short stick, and that's all. Unless we're using rubber type this week.
Hi, ma'am. Oh, Ellen, get Miguel Brown. Sorry, ma'am, but we're awfully busy just now. Oh, Gil? About them 2 cows you wanted to sell. I know you ain't got money enough to pay for an ad, but tell you what I'll do. I'll trade you a stick and a half on page 1 for... Well, anyway, a stick for 3 or 4 bushels of eatable potatoes that ain't sprouted yet. I'm very sorry, ma'am, but we're terrible busy. The paper's just going to press. All right, make it 3 then, seeing as how an emergency exists.
So, you're Ulysses Bradford.
What there is of him. There. Excuse me. Now, this'll fix up page 1. Let her roll. If you're selling dictionaries, we don't want some.
But I'm not trying to sell you a dictionary.
H3's personal columns ain't filled yet.
All right, I'll fill her right up. Always trying to sell me a dictionary. Claim my paper makes a lot of mistakes in spelling. That wouldn't be a real newspaper if it didn't make a mistake now and then.
But I am not selling dictionaries.
Well, whatever it is, come around after we get our taxes paid. If we ever do.
Mr. Bradford, I came all the way from New York to talk to you.
Long trip.
I was John Cleveland Carter's secretary.
I live right upstairs. It's quieter up there. I call this my sanctum sanctorum, whatever that means. Oh, those are famous editors. Famous first pages. That's Charles Dana, used to be editor of the New York Sun. Horace Greeley, go west, young man. Those gentlemen are supposed to be an inspiration to me. Well, there ain't no harm in a mouse wishing to be an elephant, is there? Oh, you hungry? I'm doing my own cooking since my wife died. Pretty good at it, too. Some ham and eggs, maybe? A Denver sandwich? I cook with or without onions.
Mr. Bradford, did you really mean all those things you said about Mr. Carter?
He's dead now.
Yes. Do you know why he was killed?
Murder, though it hath no tongue, will speak. Shakespeare.
Mr. Bradford, he was killed because he wanted to plead guilty to everything you said about him.
Ain't the way I understood it.
Mr. Carter wrote and signed this just before he died. I, John Cleveland Carter, being of sound mind, do hereby make my last will and testament, revoking any previous testament. To my true friend, Ulysses Bradford of Hiawatha, Nebraska, I leave my controlling interest in the New York Gazette to have and to hold
I hand back to him control of the newspaper his great-grandfather founded. Make an honest newspaper of the Gazette again, Ulysses. God help and guide you. Signed, John Cleveland Carter. Let's both sit down.
Howard Rankin's the man, not Mr. Carter, who's made the Gazette what it is. And that's what Mr. Carter was going to tell that crowd when he was shot.
I've heard about Mr. Rankin for a long, long time. But surely you don't accuse him?
I'd accuse him of anything. He's capable of anything.
Riding to glory on the back of a newspaper. Is that it?
Yes. Why, Howard Rankin isn't even a real newspaper man, not in any sense of the word. But because he inherited 45% of the Gazette stock, he can dictate the newspaper's policies. He can prove anything to the readers, especially if it's a lie. Journalistic ethics, honesty, which is the foundation of every decent newspaper, means absolutely nothing to him. He's the man who abuses the freedom of the press and misuses the power of the press. And with John Carter dead, he can go on doing it more and more, and there's no one to stop him. I think he's the most dangerous man in America.
Me trying to cope with him would be like... No, I'm just man enough to run the Star County world, and that's all I am. I couldn't carry on, even if I was fool enough to try. No. It's not for me.
It's much easier to tell people when they're wrong than to do anything about it, isn't it, Mr. Bradford? Well, John Carter's dead because what you said mattered to him. But it doesn't seem to matter enough to you for you to leave your nice, quiet, safe little corner and step out and fight the people who killed him. You must be a very big man with your 1,244 readers, if there are that many. Well, if defending the freedom of the press and not misusing the power of the press meant anything more than just words to you, you'd take Mr. Carter's newspaper with its 2 million readers and you'd... Oh, I know about Charles Dana and Horace Greeley and your great-grandfather and all the rest of the great old-time editors. Mr. Carter told me about them, and they weren't afraid. But a mouse can't be an elephant. You're right, Mr. Bradford. You're right.
Wait a minute. There ain't no train out until tomorrow morning. I've got a room down the hall where you can rest. Right this way. Oh, I just saw it. I don't know your name.
Edwina Stevens. Mr. Carter called me Eddie.
Good night.
Good night.
I don't know whether my great-granddad's ghost just gave me my marching orders or what. Maybe I'm just a victim of an oversized conscience. Anyhow, if you and John wish to job on me, guess I gotta take it. Do the best I can with it. I hope you sleep better now. I know I won't. Well, good night, Eddie.
Memorandum from the publisher to all department heads. We want Gazette readers to say that the Gazette leads the parade because the Gazette crusades. Wherever we find anything we don't like, we're going to tell the public about it and smash it.
Mr. Ulysses Bradford, this is Mr. Howard Rankin.
I've heard of Mr. Bradford. What do you want?
I got a kind of a letter here from John Carter that I think you ought to read.
That is a photostatic copy.
Well, I'm sorry that this young woman has involved you in all the expense and trouble of coming here with us.
Well, all I know is, Mr. Rankin, that John Carter kind of wanted me to take his place running this newspaper.
You've had a lot of experience running a New York newspaper.
Kind of roomy here, ain't it? You can take my little old printing office and drop it in one corner in there. Nobody'd ever notice it. Charles Dana once said that all there was to publishing the paper was to buy you newsprint for enough less than you sell it for so that you could pay your bills and maybe make a little profit, if you're lucky. I always had an idea that New York was just a bunch of little hometowns kind of crowded together on an island. As far as I know, the same kind of people read the papers in New York as they do in Hiawatha. I'm just a small-town man, Mr. Rankin. And I ain't ashamed to admit it. That you're a big man. And a mighty smart one, too. But I gotta tell you that I aim to try just as hard as I'm able to do what John Carter wanted me to.
Well, I shouldn't like to have to say this in court. But Mr. Carter was not competent to make this or any other will at the time of his death. And this I can easily prove, if I have to.
But you don't want to go to court, do you, Mr. Rankin? You know, an awful lot of things could be said right out in court about the inner workings of the Gazette. And other papers could print it without any fear of libel.
Yes?
Mr. Thompson, come in, please.
Yes, sir.
You'd better make notes of this in case a record is needed later.
Whatever Mr. Rankin says.
The Gazette is under too much pressure at this time for me to risk discussion or possible scandal, which might reduce the advertising or circulation revenues. I have made money for this paper, and for Mr. John Carter, and for myself, and for the minority stockholders. And if you can do as well, or better, Mr. Bradford, we'll all be quite satisfied.
Guess that kind of puts it up to me. Well, I'll do the best I know how. No man can do any better than that, can they, Eddie?
Son for me?
Yeah. Very important story has just come in.
This on the level?
This is Mr. Bradford, new publisher. Griff Thompson, managing editor.
Well, I'm glad to meet you formally, Mr. Thompson. First name is Ulysses. Some folks used to call it useless. Same as Ulysses S. Grant, till he surprised him by being kind of useful.
We've already got a pretty important page one top line.
Well, now, that is an important story. Yes, sir, you bet it is.
We'll change the signatures on that page one editorial of yours in the next run. Sign Mr. Bradford's name. Let the town wonder who Ulysses Bradford is for the next 24 hours. Crack the story then, we got more space. That'll save a lot of mix-ups. Give both stories a better play. Okay with you?
Well, I hadn't figured on getting my name on the front page.
Right. I'll have the boys take some pictures of you later, send in a rewrite man to talk to you. See you around.
Now I know that a cyclone can talk.
I'll be in my office.
Eddie, Mr. Rankin hasn't even begun to commence to start the fight. He figures if he gives me enough rope, I'll hang myself and save him the trouble. Less than I can hang him first, which both he and I doubt if I can. Eddie, the last man that sat in that chair before Mr. Rankin was a better man than either Rankin or me. Look what happened to him.
Oh, no, this couldn't be. Well, I know that boy. He used to work for the paper. I met his mother. It's a frame-up. Rankin had to send someone to the electric chair to close the case, and he picks on Jerry Purvis.
Eddie, it seems the police have a good deal of evidence against him.
What the Gazette calls evidence. Private investigators from the Gazette. Oscar Trent, a Gazette employee. But he doesn't work for the paper. He draws his pay directly from Rankin. He's no reporter. He's just a little Himmler if there ever was one. Chris Barker, a private detective retained by the Gazette. Why, he's a flat-headed strong-arm man hired by Rankin. In Germany, he'd be a stormtrooper. Don't you see? The Gazette. Oh, no. It's Rankin's own private little Gestapo.
Now, Eddie, Griff Thompson's an honest newspaper man if ever I saw one. He wouldn't print fake news.
He'd print whatever came across his desk as long as it sold copies. Accused today, retract tomorrow. And if you can make the fake hold up, so much the better.
Yes, Mr. Rankin?
This is Miss Stevens, Mr. Bradford's private secretary, and from now on, this is Mr. Bradford's office. Get me Griff Thompson.
Mr. Thompson's the composing room. Can't take any calls.
Well, he'll take this call. Get him on the line.
Eddie, you're not going to bother a man when he's putting the paper to bed, are you?
He's going to take Rankin's name off that editorial and sign yours.
Hello, hello.
Well, Griff, what's in the editorial?
Publish your statement about the arrest of Jerry Purvis that's already locked up in the form. Why?
Well, it's not to run unless Mr. Bradford sees it and okays it, and that's publisher's orders.
Well, Eddie, since you've taken charge, perhaps you'll tell me what we're going to do next.
Hello, Jerry. I'm sorry about your mother. This is Mr. Bradford.
John Carter was an old friend of mine. You know how I'd feel about the man that killed him. Eddie, don't think you did. Did you?
I wish I had.
You oughtn't to say that, son. Now, look here. I've been at your age. Of course, I never had as much bad luck as you had. But there were times when I thought the cards were all stacked against me. So I think I know just how you feel.
Jerry, if there's anything you know, anything at all that will help you. You were a reporter once. You know how it is. According to the Gazette, you're guilty. So to a million other people, you are. The answer is to prove who is guilty. You can trust us.
How did he get into this?
Mr. Carter left him the paper.
Ah, that Carter.
It says here you made threats against him.
Oh, maybe I did. The Carter was printing phony news. Fake pictures and lying editorials like why are we fighting England's battles? Everything's wrong in Washington. And he said those things even after Pearl Harbor. And I called him an un-American heel, and he was. I said it was rats like him that were crucifying this country. So he had me fired. Okay, I'm a good reporter. But I couldn't get another job in this whole town. Carter had me blacklisted and... Now, what's the use? Killed my mother and they'll burn me. I'm riding the railroad straight to the electric chair, and there's nothing you can do about it. There's nothing nobody can do about it.
Eddie, that boy ain't guilty. He's no murderer. I guess you've all read this morning's paper. So I guess you all know who I am, where I'm from, and how I happen to be here talking to you. You all know that I'm just pinch hitting for a better man. A man that should still be at bat. But here I am, and I hope you'll all help me do the job that John Carter left for me to do. Which reminds me of a story. Story about a shipwrecked sailor who was just about to give up the ghost. Then he landed on the beautiful shore of a paradise island. He met a friendly native. The first thing this sailor says is, "What's the government of this country? I'm agin it." Now, folks, I think there's a point to that story. that affects you and me and this paper and the whole country. The more I read our newspaper, the more it seems to me that we're again everything. And I swear I can't see where we're for much of anything. Now, folks, I think that's wrong. For example, a boy named Purvis is on trial for his life. Now, this paper put him where he is. Now, I don't know why we're against this boy, but we are. Or at least we have been up to now. I don't think a newspaper has the right to decide the guilt or innocence of anybody. Now, I've talked to this fellow, Jerry Purvis, and personally, I don't think he's a murderer. Of course, that's only one man's opinion, and that's all it is. This newspaper seems to have been doing the same thing to Jerry Purvis that it's been doing to a lot of other people. Probably more important people, and to this whole country, which happens to be at war. Now, folks, I want to see if we can't do things a little different from today on. I don't see why we can't get in print both sides of the story about who killed John Carter, who really killed him. I don't see why we can't get in print both sides of every story, an editorial, and column, an article that goes into the Gazette. Folks, all I know is that freedom of speech does not mean freedom to aid the enemy. An enemy that has stopped every kind of freedom in every country that he has touched so far. Freedom is dynamite and has to be handled with care. Stop freedom of speech in this, our free nation? Limit the freedom of the American press? No. But I don't think we want anybody on this paper who fears democracy more than he or she fears Hitler.
Mr. Bradford, are you putting a ban on constructive criticism?
Constructive, no. Destructive, yes.
Just how do you define the difference?
I'll ask you. Is this constructive criticism? Churchill schemed and stalled till he dragged us into England's war. Who bombed Pearl Harbor? Who bayoneted the Filipinos? Who bombed the American hospitals on Bataan Peninsula? Here's another one. What were American troops doing on the Dutch islands, anyhow? I'm surprised some one of you hasn't asked in his column. What business did the Hawaiian Islands have being in the Pacific? What business did Jimmy Doolittle have flying over Tokyo? Now, folks, I don't call that constructive criticism. I call it poison. I call it aiding the enemy. I call it treason. Well, folks, that's about all I've got to say. Thanks for listening so patiently. Oh, Mr. Thompson. Just a minute, please.
I congratulate you, Mr. Bradford. I'm anxious to see the result of your policy.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Rankin. I appreciate that coming from you. I do indeed.
Where was that?
Oh, thank you, Eddie. I don't know what we do here without Eddie. I want us to print this on the front page of every edition today. You know, the thing that bothers me most about Mr. Rankin, he's sincere. Someone said, I don't know who it was, that all the great traitors of history were sincere men. That they believed in their own hearts that they were patriots.
But you and Rankin buried the hatchet.
Oh, we did.
Crackpots and cranks won't have Jerry Purvis. That's all this will get you. To whom it may concern. That's a terrific headline. Thousands of happy little newsboys running up and down yelling, "Extra, read all about it. To whom it may concern." If any person has information which may add to the reasonable doubt that already exists as to the actual guilt of Gerald Purvis, contact the... You told us just a minute ago it was none of our business to say guilty or not guilty.
So far, son, we've said nothing but guilty. Now, this Jerry Purvis is a little fella. No money, nobody on his side. He's entitled to protection, the same as all of the other little people that make up 99% of our country. The common people that Lincoln said, God must have loved them because he made so many of them. Justice. That's what the Constitution guarantees every American. And that's what I'm trying to get for Jerry Purvis. Justice.
Anything else?
No, I guess that's all right now. You know, Eddie, if he'd just be himself a minute and stop being a managing editor, he'd be on Jerry Purvis's team, same as we are. He has nothing personal against the boy. Not a thing.
Oh, he hasn't anything personal against anybody. He's just a circulation-chasing little Caesar. Oh, he is.
Love and newspapers don't mix very well together, do they, Eddie?
Yes?
Thompson talking. Let me speak to Mr. Bradford.
Yes, son.
Does the name Lambert Davidson mean anything to you?
$1 man in Washington, ain't he?
We got a hot tip that this Davidson's got enough tires, gas, and sugar and other ration stuff hoarded away in a warehouse he owns downtown to feed and transport an army, which is not so good when you consider they're cracking down right and left on little guys that buy a hot retread for their jalopy and on housewives that are hiding away a couple of cups of sweetening.
Well, that's pretty scandalous, even if true, ain't it, son?
If you ask me, it's news.
What does Mr. Davidson say in his own defense? Have we talked to him yet?
If we go around asking a lot of questions, it'll tip off all the rest of the papers. This is exclusive up till now.
If we can't print both sides of a story, we don't want to print any. Work on it some more, son. Talk to me later.
Oh, this is too hot to hold. We got to go with this before the other papers get it.
Mr. Davidson beat Mr. Rankin for governor. Of course, that was years ago. That was before Mr. Rankin discovered that you can be a dictator without having votes. Mr. Davidson isn't afraid to say what he thinks. And he didn't agree with Mr. Rankin. So he got in Mr. Rankin's way. And so...
I gotta get out of here for a while, Eddie. Sometimes I can think better when I walk. If I walk far enough. You stay here and kind of hold down the fort.
Say, mister, I want to see the publisher.
Yeah?
To whom it may concern. That's me.
Yeah? Why?
I got a big scoop for the paper. Scoop? I don't know. This is Jerry Purvis.
Just a minute.
He don't kill Mr. Carter.
Just a minute.
No, sir.
How do you know he didn't?
I'm his alibis. Where I find Mr. Ulysses Bradford. So I tell him.
Mr. Rankin. Mr. Rankin, could you come here a minute? This gentleman wants to see Mr. Bradford. He's got an alibi for Jerry Purvis.
That's right. That's right. I don't know who killed Mr. Carter, but Jerry Purvis don't. No, sir.
How do you know he didn't?
See, I got a cigar store. Selling newspapers, selling the Gazette for many years. This is Jerry Purvis. He's come to my store 2, 3 times. He say he used to be a reporter for the Gazette. So we talk. Only the last time he was there, he talked very bad about the Mr. John Carter. So I throw him out. But he's in my store right when Mr. Carter got killed. So he don't kill Mr. Carter. So he's got to have a justice.
Yeah, that's right.
Mr. Trent will take you to the publisher.
Oh, thanks, mister. Thank you. Say, maybe I get my picture in the paper, you think?
Yeah, if you're lucky.
Say, I'm always lucky since I've been an American citizen.
Yeah. We'll take a little elevator ride. Publisher's upstairs.
Oh, yes? All right.
Bell clear from the top. Make way now. Come on, get back. Get back, please. Go ahead. Get back, please.
What happened all day?
What man fell down the elevator shaft.
Dead?
Never knew when he hit the bottom.
I'm Ulysses Bradford, editor and publisher of this paper. Have you any idea who the man was?
Name was Tony Angelo. Had his naturalization papers on him, registered in the last draft. Ran a cigar store over at Avenue B, according to stuff in his wallet. Followed the races from the look of this. Had to pry that out of his hand. Funny. Follows a city block, but won't let go of the racing tips.
You mind if I take charge of these? Maybe I can do something for the poor fellow's family if he had one.
No, I can't do that, Mr. Bradford.
Well, maybe I could go along with you. I'd be glad to help if I could.
Well, why, sure.
Mr. Bradford,
Hello, Eddie.
I've been looking everywhere for you.
Went over to the police station. A man named Tony Angelo fell down on the elevator shafts here in the building and was killed. I was just trying to check up on him and his family and so on. Didn't find out much, though. Got to do some more investigating later.
Tried to locate you last night. I called your hotel room till way past midnight.
I didn't get in till 3 or 4 or something like that.
Did you see last night's special extra? Or any extras today?
No. I told Thompson not to do that.
Yes?
Tell Mr. Thompson Mr. Bradford wants him in here right away.
He's in the composing room.
I don't care if he's in Timbuktu. Tell him to come in here. Look at the story, Mr. Bradford, not just the headlines.
Statements continued to pour into the Gazette office today, following the Gazette's exclusive expose last night, as aroused citizens demanded Davidson's removal from his post in Washington. But we don't say who accuses him. We don't quote him at all.
Who accused Jerry Purvis?
Sent for me?
Yes?
Thompson talking. I'll take my calls in here for the next few minutes. We've broken every street sale record in history up to 10 this morning. That's page 1 for the next edition. Running 300,000 extra.
Feel proud of yourself, don't you? Riot threatened as citizens rise in hoarding scandal.
Is there likely to be trouble?
Well, there will be as soon as that hits the street, which is exactly the idea.
We print what happens.
You mean we make it happen? Son? Seems to me there's a law against inciting a riot. And that's what I'd call that headline.
Look, Mr. Bradford, you edit and publish to your heart's content. But I run the news pages. Is that clear?
But we're not printing both sides of the story.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes?
City desk has a flash. Rush call to police headquarters from Davidson's warehouse.
Call circulation. Special crew to handle street sales. Tell makeup to set up for action pictures to follow. I'll be in my office.
See what I mean?
I see a lot of things. Come on, Eddie.
Where?
I want to see that riot. Hurry up now. Come on.
Pringle talking. Get me Griff Thompson, quick.
Thompson talking. Yeah, where have you been? All right, calm down. Tell me about it. Quit yelling. I can't understand you.
I never saw a crowd gather so quick. The street's full of them, hundreds of them. Thousands, make it thousands. Lots of them have copies of the Gazette with them, yeah. Guys making speeches. Well, what else would they say? They had to give up gas, tires, and all that sort of thing, and Lambert Davidson's got a warehouse full of them.
Hold it, Pringle. Tear out everything on page 1. Tell circulation we're going to bat with a special in 10 minutes. Go ahead, Pringle. Yeah. Yes, I got it. What? He went down there?
Yeah, old useless Ulysses, and the girls with him, too. Yeah, he tried to give the crowd an argument. Then Lambert Davidson showed up. I don't know what he said to the crowd. Couldn't hear him. They were yelling too loud. All of a sudden, he collapsed. Heart attack, I guess.
Thompson talking. Oh, yes, Mr. Rankin. Yes, I know. Got a man on the phone right now. Give me all the details. Yes, of course, we're hitting him with everything we got. Yes, sir. See you later.
Hey, Griff! The warehouse is on fire. Yeah.
Yeah, hold it, Pringle. Get over there quick. The warehouse is on fire. You follow through on Lambert Davidson's supposed to be sick, and he ought to be. That'll do for the final run. Clear page 2 for a photo layout for the final home. Thompson talking. Oh, go ahead. Washington Bureau calling. Yeah. Now, wait a minute. What is this, a good old coveroo? Yeah. All right. File 2,000 words for tomorrow. Goodbye. The stuff in Davidson's warehouse was government property. Secret stores for a special Army task force that was to sail under sealed orders the end of this week. Davidson was acting under War Department orders. We've just wrecked an Army division, that's all. And handed some vital military secrets to the Axis. Well, what?
I just thought you might be interested. I didn't have a chance to tell you while the hullabaloo was on. But the guy who organized that riot was our pal Oscar Trent.
You must be mistaken.
Mister, I was there.
Well, Mr. Thompson, Washington would naturally deny these charges.
Thompson talking. Oh, you.
Lambert Davidson just died. Heart failure. First Mrs. Purvis and now Lambert Davidson. How does it feel to kill an old woman and a great man?
Davidson just died. Heart failure.
Mr. Thompson, I very seldom dictate headlines. I want this run in all the remaining editions. We'll follow this angle tomorrow.
Publisher's orders?
Yes.
Better put your okay on it, in case old man Ulysses still thinks he's running things.
Good night.
It was Oscar Trent who put the finger on Jerry Purvis. I like Jerry.
Get yourself a drink and forget it.
The same Mr. Oscar Trent gave us that tip on Davidson. I know that now. He framed that riot and murdered Lambert Davidson just as sure as if he'd shot him in the back. Mr. Trent works for Mr. Rankin. I don't like Trent. I don't like Rankin.
You're talking too much.
But I thought I was working for a newspaper man. But Rankin ain't, and Trent ain't either. But just now I saw Rankin give you your orders. So you're just the same as Trent.
Now listen.
No. Because I just quit liking you.
Lambert Davidson's only crime was that he was too decent to fight back at the slander and lies. I'll be with you in just a minute, Mr. Rankin. I'm dictating an editorial. Now, you all know that he was one of our
Mr.
finest...
Ulysses Bradford?
Yes, sir?
I have an injunction order to serve upon you.
Pending the judgment of the court, Mr. Bradford, I am resuming control of the Gazette.
All right, Mr. Rankin.
And of course, you'll postpone the trial for weeks or months, knowing that Mr. Bradford doesn't have the money to fight you.
Well, it looks like I'm late, eh, Eddie? Anyway, I'll finish that editorial.
It won't be printed.
Well, I didn't last long, did I, Eddie?
We can fight back, Mr. Bradford. You can do something.
You remember when you came to see me at Hiawatha? I told you then I wasn't man enough for this job. I should have stayed home. I should go home now, where at least I have a chance of fooling some of the people some of the time. I haven't fooled anybody here, not even myself.
Are you going back on Mr. Carter? And Jerry Purvis and Lambert Davidson? And the people? The common people, the little people who read this paper and believe it? Are you, Mr. Bradford?
Like when a smart lawyer asks you that trick question, do you still beat your wife? Answer yes or no. What can I do? What can I say? I got up to bed all right, but I struck out with the bases loaded. Now I don't know. Hello, son. It's about the paper. Don't ask me. Ask Mr. Rankin.
For your information, I just told Rankin to get a new boy. In other words, I quit. Just came in to say so long to you, Mr. Bradford. Oh, yes. And you. What's funny?
You are. You came in here expecting us to pep you up. Well, frankly, I think the newspaper's much better off without you.
I think some other papers will hire me.
Why? Because you're such a wonderful newspaper man?
Yeah. Good, too.
Well, there may have been a time when you were an honest newspaper man, when free press really meant something to you. But that was a long time ago. That was a long, long time ago.
Maybe I'm just getting around to it again.
It's been the Gazette's policy to play its readers for suckers. Well, every day you've been Rankin's sucker. But you don't know about that. You're too smart.
I'll tell you something funny. You're right.
You bet I am. Why, you aren't even a managing editor. You're just a high-priced mouthpiece. Rankin pulls the strings and you jump. You sit on his knee and he does the talking for you and the thinking for you. You like to call your readers saps and suckers. Well, you've been sap #1. Playing on the prejudices of stupid people. Trying to make them lose their faith in democracy. Trying to make them hold up their hands for chains. The only difference is you get paid to be a sap. Rankin's mouthpiece.
Shut up. If anybody's gonna call me a sap, I'll do it. You hear me? I'll do it. You're not telling me anything about Rankin and myself. I don't already know better than you do. Why do you think I quit? Because I finally got my eyes open. Because I want to get Rankin and get him good and quick.
We think it's too late for the worm to turn. We guess we're not even interested.
Why not? Your hands aren't tied. Well, I'll be... a good old freezeroo, huh? Gonna put this all in the same boat. I'm out of a job, you're out of a job. Leaves us with nothing to fight with.
Yes, we're out of a job. But the biggest job of all is right in front of us. We know that Rankin is trying to destroy the unity of this country. But we can't let that happen. We've got to fight him. We've got to get him.
Why not?
Edwina, with Griff on our side, we're sure to get Rankin. But how?
This man says it's important, Mr. Bradford.
I want to see Ulysses Bradford.
What about?
You him?
I'm Ulysses Bradford, what there is left of him.
My name is Gibbons. Mac Gibbons.
I'm glad to know you, Mr. Gibbons.
Where did you get that? I knew there was something phony. That poor little crazy guy. He had to come and see the publisher.
Perhaps you'd better tell us what you're talking about.
About Tony Angelo.
Well, those are his things. He fell down an elevator shaft. I was aiming to try to find his folks.
Yes, folks. His wife is dead. And his son is with MacArthur in Australia. Why did you have to kill him?
I never saw him alive in my life. You a friend of his?
Yeah.
Perhaps you'd better take charge of these things.
What's this?
Looks like Tony used to bet on the horse races.
Tony never bet on a horse in his life. And this ain't Tony's writing.
Relax.
Why did he want to see me?
He was going to give you a scoop for your paper. This guy, Jerry Purvis, was in Tony's cigar store when Mr. Carter was shot. So Tony was going to give him an alibi. But you're trying to put Purvis in the electric chair. So maybe somebody killed Tony to keep him from crabbing the frame up.
Trent bets every race.
Every day, and he always picks the long shots. Tony Angelo had Trent's paper in his pocket when he fell. And you took that paper away from Trent right before the riot.
Eddie, don't forget to remind me to raise your pay if I ever get back where I'm able to. What do you think, son?
If we can find out who last saw Tony in the building alive, who he was seen talking to,
and how and where he ran into Oscar Trent.
Come on, we're going places.
Let me tell you, those brass hats in Washington who got us into this disastrous war are not leading this great nation
Rankin's
nearer
voice.
to
Yeah, he's on the radio tonight. You know, one of those round table things, should we or should we not aid Russia?
I'll bet he's on the negative.
They send up pitiful cries of unity.
You got a gun?
Expecting us
Yeah, but I don't know what to do with it.
footsteps like so many blind mice.
I do.
They say that we, the people, shall be allowed only 3 gallons of gasoline every week. 2 pounds of
Trent,
meat a week.
open up.
Rationing of every sort. Where is the freedom upon which this
Lean on
land
it,
of
Mac.
ours is built? Why, the way things are going, soon there'll be no choice between
Steady now,
whether
steady.
we should be under the domination of Germany or under the iron heel of those bureaucrats in Washington.
No powder burns. Would be if Trent actually shot himself. Somebody came up a fire escape, stood out there. Let Trent have it. They tossed a gun in. Wouldn't be any fingerprints on it, of course. Professional job.
The only man that could have told us the truth, they shut him up, too. Don't look like much of a story, does it, son?
No. Best he rates is sticking a half a type on page 9. We got plenty of space. Hello. Hello. This is room 310. Get me the Gazette on the phone. Yeah, and stay off the line while I'm talking. That radio shindig goes on about 8 to 9. On the stage in front of an audience. Now 8:32. Trent couldn't have been shot much before 8:10. That means that Rankin's torpedo hadn't had a chance to report to the boss yet. So Rankin can't be sure that Trent is dead. You get... Hello. Gazette? Well, what's the matter? You sleeping or writing your memoirs? Yes, it's Mr. Thompson. Get me photographic. Try and stay awake from now on. Joey, this is Griff. Come over to Blake Hotel, room 310. Hop on it. Bring plenty of flash bulbs. Right. Tony have a lot of cop friends?
Plenty.
Can you rustle up 2 or 3 might be off duty tonight? Mean are looking the better. Get them over here, in uniform. Come on, fast. Step on it. This isn't going to be very pretty. Better wait outside. The whole story is right there in the paper, Mr. Rankin. Trent talked his head off.
Trent is dead.
Is he?
When did he die?
Who told you he was dead? You see, the cops got there before Trent died. We were there, too. He had a swell audience. Then I came back, took charge of the news department.
Read what he said, Mr. Rankin. Why don't you read what he said? 130 million people will know before this day is over. Patient people, Mr. Rankin. They'll stand a lot. They seem mighty dumb and easy to fool, up to a point. Lincoln said it. You can't fool all the people all the time, not the American people. It's the greatness and glory of this country that when the little people are hurt too much or too long, you pay for it. These people are not going to lay a hand on you, Mr. Rankin. They don't need to. Don't you think you better talk while you have a chance, Mr. Rankin?
Well, I was... Listen, John Carter was dangerous. He might have ruined this paper. I had plans for this country, great plans.
Yes, Mr. Rankin, you had plans. But you forgot that if it wasn't for the people, you wouldn't have been anything. You couldn't have had anything. Once you found out that so long as democracy lives, you couldn't grab the power you wanted for yourself, you grew to scorn the people and hate democracy. You were going to be the man on horseback, riding this paper for your own personal glory. But oh no, not now, Mr. Rankin. Not since your man Trent has at last told us the truth about you.
What about Tony Angelo?
Trent did it.
You confess you had John Cleveland Carter killed? You confess you had Tony Angelo killed? You confess you had Trent killed?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Copy desk. Hello. Harry, get set for a special run.
You back on the paper?
Yes, I'm back on the paper. Got a new contract. Get me a 3-line streamer, biggest, blackest type we've got. Take it. Rankin confesses 3 murders in plot to rule nation. This is only a phony, Mr. Rankin. Printed only for your benefit.
Trent never confessed. He was dead when that picture was taken. He that taketh the sword shall perish by the sword. So I guess that he that fakes the news is entitled to perish by fake news.
Page 1 for all editions. The case of Howard Rankin is closed. He goes to prison, as he should. And his hired killer, Chris Barker, goes with him. What follows?
These men will pay the penalty for murder. They were brave men until their crimes were revealed. Now they're sniveling cowards, begging for the justice they sought to destroy. That is as it should be. What did Howard Rankin want? What lesson can we, all of us, learn from him and about him? This lesson: that the truly dangerous fifth columnists, the really frightening traitors in our midst, are not men who speak in strange foreign accents and draw their pay from Hitler. No. Any man who lets himself get into a group that makes it a business of hating any other group or race or creed within this nation is a fifth columnist. Any man who practices discrimination in this of all times, who stirs up dissatisfaction and unrest, who blocks our road to victory and peace for his own vicious purposes, is a traitor. When the people, the common people, divide, the dictators will conquer them. Not before. Let us pray that the people may triumph, and may God defend the right.